Welcome back to the Reier on YouTube channel. Travis Reier alongside my co-host Evan Reier. It is No Sleep TEAL. And when I say I'm remote today, Evan, well, as you can see, I am in fact remote, but we've got a lot to get into on the program. Very interesting week for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Coming back from London, taking on a very good Green Bay Packers team. Ev, the feeling inside Everbank Stadium on Sunday after coming back, after the self inflicted wounds, after the injuries, to tie that game and then see, as you pretty much called it last week, the Brandon McManus revenge game, to see that guy drill it from short range to take care of the Jags. Not surprising, but not any less heartbreaking, too.
Yeah, that was a tough one, especially since I don't think I think really offensively that was another decent performance at the very least. The offensive line continues to do a pretty solid job overall. The play that sticks out the worst obviously is the fumble in your own 20. That's a tough one. But I thought Trevor was decent again. Again, that offensive line was solid. I can't really say it's their fault. I as much as I would say that, I mean, Jordan Love goes out, you kind of want your defense to be able to maybe take control of that game, and they just didn't. I know Josh Jacobs is very good. We know that well. But he was kind of getting whatever he wanted, and then to have Malik Willis of all people kind of in your season in so many ways. I mean, I think the Jaguar season was kind of already over, but if you win that game, I said it last week, if you win that game, you're two games in a row. You play an Eagles team that's not invincible, but now you're 2-6. I think it's over at this point.
Yeah, the fallout from the game, kind of that narrative around Duval, certainly this week in the aftermath of the Packers nipping the Jags last Sunday, it certainly has had that feel. It's almost felt inevitable in the weeks leading up to this to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely feels more real right now. And so, you said it, there were moments in that game against the Packers where if you thought the Jags were of playoff caliber in terms of roster and quarterback, you were right. But there were also moments where if you didn't feel that way about certain areas of this football team, you were right too. We've heard Doug Peterson, we hear football coaches talk about it a lot these days. It seems like complementary football, right? Offense, defense, special teams sort of working in unison, helping each other, complementary football. The Jags are complimentary in the way about they go losing football games, because I thought the defense, especially early in the game, was exactly what the Jags needed it to be, with this offense struggling again out of the gates. Didn't get their first down until about halfway through the second quarter, Evan.
Yeah.
Jarian Jones with a hell of an interception there in the first half. So defense was good early, wasn't good late at all. And then in between it, the offense sort of picked it up. And, Trevor with the interception deep on his own end, the fumble, as you referred to, inside the 10, that's
Yeah.
14 points directly. Now, you can look at that and say that all goes on Trevor and the offense, but you know what? You still had a chance to play defense. Now, if you give up the football at your own 5, I'm not going to critique the
Right.
defense much, if at all. But if you give it up inside your own 30, you still have a chance to force a field goal, and the defense wasn't able to do that. So, again, I think you can go back to really offense, defense. Special teams are good enough. Cam
Yeah.
Little with a big kick later in that game. Boy,
Logan
Logan
Cooks.
Cook with an all pro performance on Sunday. But offensively, defensively, they don't help each other at all. It doesn't
No.
seem like on a weekly basis.
No, it's you think about, the successful teams that the Jaguars have had in the past decade, and even that 2022 team, it felt like while that defense wasn't great, they were really good at forcing, getting takeaways, at least giving the offense short fields to work with. The Jaguars were, Jarian Jones was able to get that interception, but the offense wasn't able to capitalize on it. And then when
Right.
the offense was performing well, the defense, couldn't show up. It's like when the defense was getting a break. They talk about all the time. Well, okay, let's see if we can at least get a couple first downs and keep the defense on the sideline to be able to rest. It seemed like that didn't do anything for the defense. If anything, they fell asleep when the Jaguars offense was driving down the field. Because every single time it seems like when the Jaguars would score in that second half, that second drive of the second half they score a touchdown. The Packers respond with a long drive of their own, and then that's when you right after that is when Trevor fumbled. But yeah, it's frustrating to watch because you even when they were really starting to get it together, they take their first kind of lead of the game. It is still you were anticipating what we're talking about of well the mistakes and the lack of complementary football, and essentially that's what happened. I do think a lot of that, while there's something to be said about player execution and different things, I really do think that a lot of that is, coaching. And in many ways, especially with how the Jaguars scored with, a minute 45 on the clock after they tied it up.
Right.
That felt like terrible game management in my eyes. I know you have to get down the field and score to tie that game up, but at the same time, I mean, they didn't do anything to really try and give their defense a chance.
Yeah.
In terms of time remaining, and then Ryan Nielsen's kind of approach to defending on the drive that led to the game-winning field goal, not exactly inspiring either.
Well, it
Um,
was it was set up perfectly, man. And give the Packers a lot of credit because Malik Willis is in the game. You're thinking if you're the Jags, especially after the first down run on that final possession for the Packers, hey, they're just going to probably try to pound this thing. And if they break one with Jacobs, then maybe they'll take some chances. But it almost felt like the Packers were willing at that point to go to overtime. But all it really was a setup. That first
yeah,
down run, it got the Jags into the mindset of let's load up this box with 8 or 9 guys. Let's get our safety up in there sniffing around. Essentially ran play action off of the run to Jacobs on the previous snap. And Andre Cisco in no man's land, up
yeah, fell down.
there, eyes not where they need to be. I know he cramped, but I think he cramped because he was trying to recover,
Yeah.
right? If he was in position to make that coverage what it needed to be, perhaps he doesn't cramp. But when you are in an oh shit moment, your body may not respond the way your brain would like it to, especially at the end of a long physical football game. And so it was a tough matchup, I think, for Cisco regardless. But boy, a lot of credit too to the Packers. And you're right, the Jags got played there. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any better way to put it.
Yeah, that was when they scored and it was like a minute 40 or whatever it was on the clock, I was like, yeah, that's a lot of time. The Packers will
I I
probably
told I told people very well that were sitting with me. It's a lot of time, and like you said, they were in a hurry. It seemed like, even though they were in the red zone, I was like, they
yeah.
don't really need to be in this big of a hurry. They've got time here for a full sequence of 4 snaps if that's what they need, and then some. Like they had plenty of time, and so we were synced up, Ev. I think in terms of what we were thinking there.
Well, to put it in perspective, I mean, it was, Trevor was dealing and it was working. So there's something to be said there, but they did not run the ball once on that touchdown drive. Every single play was a pass. And, like I just, especially after you get to like the Green Bay 14, it's a 2-minute warning. I personally am thinking, okay, let's at least run the ball on this first play. Let's at least, we've got all the time in the world. We only have to go 14 yards to get this touchdown. If we don't get the touchdown, we lose.
Right.
I mean, but you're 2-5. Like I think you kind of have to. Maybe they were not anticipating that. Maybe they were thinking that it was going to be less successful than it was. But yeah, just a tough look in that
Not
sense. And then it is what it is. Again,
Not a situation they're used to either at the
yeah,
end of games, unfortunately. When you really think about it, yes, they've lost some close games, but it hasn't had the feel that the Jaguars were on the doorstep of winning late in
yeah,
games, especially on offense. And yeah, there's some perspectives I'm sure you have to take into account. One of them being at that particular time, you didn't have any of your top three receivers
yeah,
on the field. I mean, you were rolling Parker Washington, you were rolling Tim Jones, and you were rolling two tight ends. Now, look, that's where Evan Ingram's value is immense because we all know he's essentially a wide receiver in a lot of cases. And what a catch, too, by Evan Ingram.
yeah.
That
That was
was
an
some
incredible grab.
Matrix ish stuff, the way he
Smooth.
elevated and just sort of maintained it to make that grab in the end zone.
No, that was maybe the best play I've seen from Evan Ingram, and he's had some very good plays over the years for the Jags, but that was probably the best play. And really, again, a perfect ball from Trevor. I mean, he puts it in the one spot that the ball has to go. Um, I uh, I was very impressed with that in general, and kind of after it happened, I was like, the defense. I was trying to convince myself that the defense was going to show up
Right.
because they, had had some good performances earlier in the game. I was really hoping that would be maybe Jarian Jones's moment, but when Cisco falls down and they pick up 40 yards on a single play, it just kind of
Yeah.
becomes, well, that's kind of that.
Yeah,
Um,
it
so
did. And look, you're still not getting enough pressure on quarterbacks.
yeah,
Um,
jeez,
and you know what you've got in the secondary right now anyway. And then sort of the fallout from this game. In the last 24 hours, we've seen Cam Robinson traded to the
yep.
Minnesota Vikings. Wanted your thoughts on that. Sensible is the word that comes to mind for me. I'm not sure about you.
No, I think that's the right move. Walker Little has done fairly well in his chances this year. And really, you're hitting a point where Cam Robinson's at the end of his contract. You're
Yeah.
going to cash out. You've got to. And, more than likely, with Christian Darrisaw being out, as long as Cam Robinson stays healthy and plays the rest of the season, that won't just be a fifth round pick. That will be a fourth round pick based on my understanding of the trade.
Yep.
So fourth round pick for a guy that really hasn't been as good as you wanted, who was probably going to leave anyways. I do think that that's a smart deal, and you get to really, really, give Walker Little a chance. You say, hey man, these next 7 games or 9 games or whatever, this is your opportunity to prove that you're the tackle we want to build on going forward. So I think that makes sense. And in fact, I would, if they find any other offers for some of the veterans on this team, I kind of in a place where I'm saying, go ahead and fire sale. Don't give away dudes for nothing, but
Right.
it might not be a bad opportunity to kind of look at some of the younger guys on the squad, and give them more opportunities. Because yeah, it's kind of over. If
Yeah.
if excuse me, Christian Kirk hadn't gotten injured, which that really stunk. That he broke his collarbone,
Gone for the year. Yeah.
gone for the year. I think he was a name that was being listed as a trade candidate by a lot of reporters around the country. I think they probably would have shopped him around. Even so, with him injured, let's get some of these practice squad guys like Elijah Cooks, maybe what we got in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'd rather see their skills than anything else.
Yeah, it's rough. And look, it could change the whole dynamic with Christian Kirk since he's not tradable.
Yeah,
He's done for the year. Perhaps he ends up being a Jaguar moving forward. Maybe not. Um, then you think about, right, what that offense was able to do in 12 personnel with two tight ends on the field there late. Very impressive. Trevor seemed very comfortable in that approach. Um, I'm not going to say it's a blessing because if you're without Brian Thomas Jr. also this week, that can't be a good thing. Look,
yeah,
you've got some guys that can play inside. You've got Parker Washington, who I thought did some nice things late in that game against the Packers. So
Absolutely.
feel okay about the slot, but what you don't have if Brian Thomas Jr. can't go is a legit vertical threat. I like Elijah Cooks' size if you end up bringing him up from the practice squad. But the explosiveness of this offense undoubtedly would take a hit. You talk about other guys, trade deadlines next Tuesday. I mean, you thinking Travis Etienne at this point? Is he still been on your radar? He's a guy that's been talked about a lot by you and other folks. Um, and you think about maybe some other guys that could be on the move.
Yeah, I think ETN for the right offer could go, but I think the Jaguars, I mean, they really do like him. I mean, every single aspect or in every single step of his NFL career, they've been very, very much, supportive. Even when he was going down earlier this season, Doug over and over and over said, no, we're not making Bigsby the starter. ETM will always be the starter if he's healthy. So I'll be curious to see what that is. I would say it's kind of a coin flip. If they got like a really nice offer for him, I think you got to take it. But I don't think that they're just going to let him walk for, basically nothing. You also still wonder if, you know, in this next weekend, if there's a quarterback that goes down. We talked about Mac Jones potentially getting traded somewhere. I think that could still happen if an NFL team loses a quarterback this weekend. And then defensively, I could see somebody like, I don't know. I could see somebody like Chad Muma getting moved. I don't know what they would really get for him,
Yeah.
but I don't think you've seen anything from him that really keeps him around.
Right.
Um, and then I would even maybe say Devon Hamilton. Devon Hamilton comes to mind as like another defender that could potentially move. I mean, I know they're already thin on the defensive line, but really, you take draft resources at this stage of a lost season. Um, you know, uh, I
Yeah, the
would,
departure of Roy Robertson Harris a few weeks ago was interesting because I think the thought process from us and others was okay, well, here comes Mason Smith. We're going to see a
yeah,
lot of the second round pick. And that really hadn't been the case, though. So if you move another interior or defensive lineman type, maybe that's what gets him more involved. Obviously, there's something going on that is leading to him not being the factor that we thought he would be, especially after Roy was sent packing to Seattle. But there's a lot of moving pieces, no doubt about it. And it really takes away from the week to week part of it in season. I mean, you got to go to Philly on
yeah,
Sunday. Enjoy that, right?
yeah,
I mean, we saw firsthand what Buffalo is like on the road. Philly has a reputation that extends, or I guess you could say dives below that of even Philadelphia. So doesn't get any easier this week. Really, the next few weeks, you're in a gauntlet right now, and it's not a good place to be, especially with the injuries.
No, it's going to be pretty brutal. At least as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Philly on the road, they've kind of found it. The Eagles are looking closer to the team we thought they would be at the beginning of last season before their collapse, similar to what happened to the Jaguars. And then, yeah, Vikings and Lions after that. Good luck. Um, we'll be seeing Cam Robinson soon.
Texans down the road too,
Yeah,
coming back
Texans
around
after that, and then
with a healthy Joe Mixon this time.
it's crazy because the last 5 games of the season are maybe the 5 easiest games of the season that they're going to play.
You
Other
make
than
the
like,
run. You make
uh,
the run to 7-10,
but
baby.
that's what's funny is that you could be dealing with this right now, and
Right.
if you can just beat the Dolphins and the Browns to start the year,
If you're just four and
then
four right now, you're in a
you're,
good spot.
you can kind of weather the storm and
Yeah.
potentially enter a final stretch that similar to 2022, you just win and you can still maybe get the wild card or something. But no, I mean it's not going to be pretty, especially this next month. November is brutal, and like I said, really at this point this year, but that's the thing is like we don't have any, you know Doug is gone. Doug's, it feels like Doug Peterson will not be the coach of the Jaguars next season, but you have no idea with Trent Baalke. You know, Shad continues to say all this stuff.
Trent's
about
making moves for 2026
yeah,
picks.
man. I mean, it's like and Shad's comment after the London game or during the London game or whatever when he was like, Brian Thomas Jr. is a star, and what that tells me is that we're drafting really well. Well, Shad, I don't know if we actually are, but I'm glad that we, you know, nailed the kind of.
Hey, there are a lot of assumptions being made. I don't have any intel on this. I don't
I
think
don't either.
anybody does right now. I'm just telling you, I won't be surprised if there's more of a retention with this current structure than maybe some folks are anticipating. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's
I,
what Shad. The thing is if you look at the history, Shad has basically cleaned house twice ever,
and
and
that's
he did.
still more than Jerry Jones. I mean, we talk
Yeah,
about Shad, but
yeah.
hell, he's not alone in all this in the National
No,
Football League.
but I don't know if pointing at Jerry is like, oh well, we're fine
Well,
because
no,
Jerry's doing it.
I'm not
No,
pointing at a master class
yeah, I know.
on organizational leadership for sure, but I'm just saying, you know,
It's when Shad bought the team, it was a clean house that came in because it has to be with the new owner. And then I guess after the Gus Bradley era, the Gus
yeah,
Bradley Dave Caldwell era, he kind of cleaned house completely. And when he did that, the Jaguars proceeded to make the playoffs for the first time in his tenure.
yeah,
So Shad, I would hope that you see that getting a new regime at least gives you a better chance. But F it, man. Let's stick with Balky, who is infamous among coaches in the NFL. Infamous for being a guy who pushes out coaches. At least that's the story from his days with the 49ers. And, I mean, there's rumors of that happening right now that him and Doug basically have been going at each other's throats all season. Again, rumors, not confirmed reports. We don't have any
right,
inside
right.
intel, but uh,
Scuttlebutt. Yeah,
we talk about the Mason Smith thing. And, I said this earlier in the year that the understanding that I had been seeing was that Doug thinks Mason Smith is a jobber, but Trent Baalke loves him, and so Doug has, when Mason Smith was being declared a healthy scratch in week 3 or so, that was Doug trying to send a message
yeah,
to
uh,
the front office,
yeah.
but who knows? Again, this is all kind of stuff that we can't really
Making the
confirm,
rounds. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's stuff to consider. And yeah, it's gonna be tough. When you talk about this Eagles game, it's almost a fun puzzle trying to think of how can the Jaguars win this game.
Well, you did
Um,
a good job against Josh Jacobs last week, so Saquon Barkley ought to be
should
a
be yeah, it should be
trolling
fine.
hard, right?
Yeah,
You feel good about that defensively right out the gate, right?
yeah. I honestly, I do approach this game thinking. I mean, I know the secondary is terrible, but I want Jalen Hurts throwing for 400 yards if they're going to beat us. You know what I mean? That is at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts' weaker side of his game. Still in my eyes, he is a good passer, but you can't if you let Saquon and Jalen Hurts kind of just run for whatever they want, you're never going to have a chance,
No,
anyways.
it's
I
not
feel
gonna
like if
matter.
you're forcing the ball down the field from Hurts, you might be able to, pick off a couple passes here and there. Devontae Smith has been playing really well the past 2 weeks, but I mean, he's Devontae Smith. It is what it is. I think that's got to be your approach. And then conversely, offensively, without some of these top receivers, I want if Etienne's healthy, I want to see Etienne and Bigsby in the backfield together sometimes.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to see a lot of just, working that like Evan Ingram
Y-
crossers,
Two tight
Etienne kind
ends,
of
two backs. Yeah.
RPO type stuff. Like I really do think that honestly, you have to run a bit of the Eagles
I did
offense
like that last week in the red zone when essentially Trevor was called to
running
run the
RPO.
football.
Yeah.
Run the football when he
Yeah.
got in with some assistance from his friends. I think they've got to have more of that. They complain or they struggle with those red zone opportunities. I know he's not Josh Allen, okay? But I know he's a good enough athlete that he can keep on a lot of these when you're getting stuffed for nothing at the 2 or the 3 and maybe have a chance, not on third down, not on fourth down, but first or second down, have him keep the football. And maybe that helps you with your red zone issues or your short
I-
yardage issues in general.
something I need to go verify, so bear with me on this, but something I saw this past weekend talking about Trevor's fumbling, while as a runner, I believe the stat said that of all those like 20 something fumbles that he's had in his NFL career, only 2 have come while he is a runner.
Running the football.
Right. And
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if he doesn't run or if the Jaguars try not to run him because they think of the fumbling issues. But really, it doesn't seem to be a problem when he's tucking it and going.
He's got
So,
more issues in terms of pocket awareness
yeah,
and
that's what it is.
navigational skills. That's when he exposes the football
I
more
will say
than he does
navigation.
on the move. Yeah.
Navigational skills. He did basically do on that touchdown. He basically did do the thing we complained about like weeks ago when he ran into
Right.
Mitch Morrison as for Cleveland. I mean, he
Yeah.
basically there's like open space on either side, and he just goes directly into the
Yeah.
scuttle
Yeah.
because he just can't. He can't.
Right.
He is not a mover and shaker
Not that
at
guy,
all.
pal. Not that guy.
And that's okay. But like you said, if you're a good enough athlete, you're at least getting up the field and you're
Right.
able to give yourself a chance.
Yes.
That's all we're asking for, really.
Give
Um,
give Trev a chance. That's all we're
yeah,
asking.
but this is a game where really, due to having their hands tied behind their back and also kind of how the matchup works, the Jaguars need to get pretty physical with their approach on offense. I mean, I want to see a lot of
Yeah,
Brenton
Tank's
Strange.
Tank. Yeah, Tank's got to have a game. And Brenton Strange, you mentioned here, he's been a real positive. And you want to
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
awesome.
a draft pick that's looking a lot better than it did 12 months ago. That's Brenton Strange.
Yeah, for sure. We have to own up on that because I don't think me or you really had much optimism for him during training camp or anything like that. We kind of said over and over again, we're not really sure what he's bringing to the table, especially, considering how high they drafted him. I love what he is right now. I love having him as a complement to Evan Ingram. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think our tight end group is actually maybe, other than the wide receiver group when healthy, maybe the strongest part of the offense. Because I also like Luke Farrell and I like Degara too. Um, yeah, and then defensively, this is, we talk about what you can do against this. This is a game where, you talk about
This is a Foyer and Ventrell
yeah,
kind of game,
yeah,
isn't
this
it?
is
I
this is
mean,
linebackers. That's literally what I was about to say.
quarterback, running back, run game.
Linebackers,
This, yeah,
absolutely.
this
Um, yeah, this is Oklahoma drills type stuff. You know, you
inside drill.
gotta
Yeah,
you gotta you gotta go find Barkley wherever he is and try to make that play, which is not easy. It's gonna be tough, but
no,
that's gonna be the only way you can really do it. Um, I wonder, the Jaguars pass rush is not good. I don't think you necessarily have to get home on Jalen Hurts. I don't think you want to push him out of the pocket a
no.
lot.
Must rush
So
him and make him stand in there and throw the football down the
so
field.
Allen
Yeah,
and Walker need to, be kind of playing contain on
discipline.
that.
Yeah,
And if anything, this is, I mean, like I said Devon Hamilton could be getting traded, but this is a game where, you kind of hope Devon Hamilton's getting a sack here because interior pass rush is going to be a big deal. Not that the Jaguars are good at that. Cough, cough, Eric Armstead. Which I
well,
actually thought he played.
you gotta play him at end. You
Yeah,
got to
I
play him at
thought I
end.
thought Eric Armstead actually played pretty okay
Yeah,
last weekend. I'll
yeah,
give him some credit in that Green Bay game, but yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting to see it with him. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a tough ask.
yeah, yeah.
There's a
It'd
reason
be
why.
I don't know if I'd be shocked if the Jags went on the road and beat Philly, but I'd be damn well surprised.
Yeah, I would say this would be more surprising
My
than
fear is Buffalo the sequence is my
yeah,
fear
yeah,
going into
yeah,
it.
absolutely. It's very well possible that they get down 2 scores early, and especially I mean, that's a demoralizing loss to the Packers.
Right,
That's kind of the latest in the gut punches. I feel like the Jaguars had avoided some gut punches in recent weeks.
right.
That Bears loss was depressing, but it wasn't like
No,
you kind of let a game get away from you.
they were just easily better. Yeah,
Yeah, this is a game where, you're coming off a week where if you were going to save your season, that was it. You were playing a team that's better than you, and you still let them off the hook.
Yeah.
I could see them kind of being deflated.
Right.
But I will say, I made a joke about it last week. Jaguars got flexed out of Sunday Night Football
Right.
for Colts Vikings,
Yeah.
or I believe it's Colts Vikings. I know it's the Colts.
How about the Colts? Yeah.
Joe Flacco, Sunday Night Football. Hey, NBC, are you sure you wanted to watch Joe Flacco and the Colts over?
Well, he's so old, it's going to be past his bedtime too. Like,
Yeah,
flexing out Flacco. That puts Paw out there a little late on Sunday night. I
it's
don't know
gonna
if he's used
be
to that.
that is like the first Sunday Night Football game of the year that I probably won't watch at all. I mean,
I'll watch it. Yeah.
that is a worse matchup to me. I feel like
Yeah.
Jaguars Eagles on
Oh,
paper
it's
is
not
a
great.
more
Yeah.
entertaining setup, but whatever. I guess I don't understand it. And really, when you're 2-6, and as bad as the Jaguars are, you can't complain about not getting on primetime
No, no,
broadcasts. So,
you cannot.
um,
Well,
yeah,
it's a
looking.
big week coming up. As we know, we got an election of some
Yeah, I
sort coming
can't
up.
wait.
So get out and vote. I'm
Yeah,
thinking maybe a write-in for Logan Cook and Cam Little.
yeah,
Cook Little 2024. I'm trying to get that going maybe,
I
but
would. I would support that. I would support that.
oh, we appreciate that. There's no doubt about it. We appreciate everybody tuning in, by the way. If you haven't subscribed to the channel as of yet, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you're alerted to all of our content as it drops right here on Reier on YouTube. And a thumbs up. A thumbs up. A like is always appreciated as well. Anything else, Ev, before we get out of here?
That's all I got.
That's all for Ev. That's all for me. And so, for Evan Reier, Travis Reier, thanking you once again for joining us right here on Reier on YouTube for No Sleep TEAL. Until next week, so long, everybody.